CR, which is short for challenge rating, mainly talking about how to interact and our own experience with it.
I like that you made that sound like I have actual input in this and I didn't just ask you the question of like what do I do if I need to make it harder for my players, and I don't know how to do that other than throwing more monsters at them.
I mean, we can start it like that, and I can edit this out.
No, I just, just starting that conversation of you made it sound like I had actual input.
I mean,
But
your input is wonderment, and that's what I need. I need to know what people are wondering about as a new DM and new players. So yeah.
yeah, so let's get into it because I'm excited. I'm here actually with my notepad out. I'm ready to take notes.
All right. But before that, I would like to say there's a small point that I did not correct Alex on, was that she said her father rolled a nat 20 to charm person, right?
Yes.
Now, this is the part of the podcast where you can pause and figure out what's wrong with that statement, or you can just keep playing.
One does not roll a
And
nat 20 to charm person. The enemy rolls a saving throw to charm person.
so rather than saying that my dad rolled a 20, I should have said that my character, my NPC, rolled a nat 1. So, you
Uh,
know,
I'm just we don't have many people in the comments, but if people come back to that first episode, they're like, "Oh, this guy's an idiot." I mean, I'll be ready that the second episode clarified that we're not
that's true.
total
Yeah.
bumpkins.
No, I'm a little bit of a bumpkin. I will own up. Look, I am 3 games deep now. Look, 3 games of me being in charge. So, and I'm not very good at remembering all those little tiny details. If I had it sitting in front of me, maybe, but
All
I don't blame. No. Mm-mm.
right, no worries. We'll talk about those things later as well. Mainly CRs kind of dictates how difficult an encounter is, and this kind of scales with your player's level. There's plenty of free tools out there for you, like a CR calculator, encounters, and then also just like a plethora of monsters out there. The stats are out there for free if you just look them up. And you kind of just have to go according to those numbers. Or you can just let them figure out that, hey, maybe this big dragon isn't something I can take on. Like, you want to give them some sense that the world is also bigger than them, and even though that they're the heroic adventurers, sometimes an encounter is going to turn deadly. But also, you want to give that kind of air of caution to them as well. Because just like saying, hey, you have a chance, or I can tell you from this last campaign, or this last Wednesday, when I haven't ran the actual encounter yet. We just started up. We got all the people in a wagon and everything, and I just kind of put a message out there saying, "Hey, people might die. Go ahead and roll up new characters if you need them," kind of thing.
Oh no, you gave them the warning coming in.
Yeah, and they did not like. Well, some of them panicked.
I would have absolutely panicked. Did you marry the group? Because I know last week they were still separated, right?
Last week they were together. They're just like mentally, they're like one of them was wanting to do something. We haven't gotten to
Okay.
the to that like kind of path. I'm playing Curse of Strahd, so a couple spoilers here. Just skip this like 30 seconds and you should be fine. We're just going to the old bone grinder next to this other city called Velaki, and that's where apparently the kids are being held up. One of them is just really hell bent on getting them out ASAP, and the other people are like, "We gotta save the citizens first. Also, we don't know if the kids are alive. Also, we can't leave the citizens out in this open road because there's monsters everywhere." But that's besides the point. So we haven't got that part. Before they got it, I rolled an encounter table, and 6 werewolves in human form are approaching them right now. And I
So
gave
what was the encounter table?
so like in Curse of Strahd exclusive, like it has this table like what monsters will be there in the morning and what monsters will be there in the night. And it doesn't really give you like, oh, at level this the characters will be able to fight these monsters or anything. You just roll it because this whole campaign is supposed to be scary, deadly, and potentially lethal in TBK. There's a lot of that in some of the supplementary books as well. I don't specifically know which books have which encounter tables, unfortunately. I just know that there's lists and tables on all these books. Just like if you look up CR by biome monster, that's how I usually do things, just so that it makes sense that a fish, you can't put a giant whale in the land because that thing will die. There's killer whales on the CR3 table, I think. Those tables are out there, and the one I used was just specifically for the campaign I was running, or for the module.
Okay.
I don't know if that
So
made
it's
sense.
usually, I mean,
I started getting rambling near the end. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sure it'll make sense eventually.
Exactly. But yeah, there's the tables that just kind of like give you this random generated stuff. Like I've rolled the gravestone 3 times out of like the 7 times I used it, and I like one time just straight up just skipped it. Like, no, I'm not gonna roll a gravestone again. Like this, why are there so many like roadside graves? Like I don't get it. So I made one of the graves kind of pop out of place, so like it's just moving and kind of following them every now and then. It has the same name, it's the same headstone and everything. Just give them an ooh, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, no, I'm getting real creeped out about like a floating headstone just following me.
Alright.
It should have had one of the characters' names written on it and just like had that moment of death is just right around the corner for everybody.
Truly, if I was kind of torn between that because like there's some parts in the module. There's this this bust of your character sitting there with like a scarrings or like a pike piercing the face, or like the bust is an actual like image of your own face and it's rotten and disgusting. Like when I'm reading the book, I'm just like, oh yeah, I just can't wait. Like it's there in the book, those that imagery of like this place is creepy and you could die at any moment, but it's so good. I'm so excited. Anyways, let's get back on track as best we can. But so how I personally play it, the need that I kind of fill with CR is mainly to paint a story. I will always just look up bandit or bandit captain or thief or like the type of monster, and I'll look through the stats first, and then I'll give them like if I do 6 bandits, I can't put in like 3 bandit captains because sometimes those bandit captains buff or they have multiple attacks, and I just gotta be worried about the party. Like if the party is able to take on 6 bandits, then my next encounter, if there's like a larger bandit camp, will have more monsters, more people. And by the time they get there, they'll either A, be restocked because they took a short rest, and if they do that, I usually try my best to buff that encounter again, just so that I know that they definitely have the resources to take care of it, and they have all the hit points, so I shouldn't feel too bad. If they encounter it like that same day, I'll say like, oh well, no one gave warning or they weren't worried, so like they have surprise round or anything like that. For them to be able to not sleep and keep going and pushing through, I'm not gonna have like the same hard encounter that they would have to when if they had that long rest and kind of regained hit points.
So you could increase the CR of that encounter by just adding in extra creatures or different types of creatures, or I guess you could beef up the thing that is attacking
You
the
could,
enemy.
yeah, you can always add extra hit points, and that's a very simple thing to do because the hit points that are automatically on the stat block is just the average of all the rolls. If you were to potentially roll higher, it's not out of the world a possibility that they have more hit points because they could potentially have double the amount that's on those stat blocks. As well as like having traps set for them. Always throw in some sort of like terrain ability. If these are bandits, they've been out here for a while, they have the lay of the land, they have the advantage, and they have traps, so they know how to get from A to B. Throwing traps in a dungeon is so good because it doesn't kill them usually. It peters them down so that when you do have the encounter, it's more dire than it was before, because like having them at half health versus full health has a sense of like urgency to the whole dynamic. And usually your adventurers are smart and they have really good abilities like turn undead, or fear, those things. Okay, like your dad had the ability to charm person. He gathered all these people up. Like, okay, they're smart. I don't know how much like stuff they had going, but it shows that they can use their brain and they can strategize and they can make it through it. And if you kind of build your encounter too hefty, and you see that your player characters are going to TPK, you should try your best to give them a hint or give the people around them some more, show them that they're not afraid of what's going on. Show to the players that there is a possibility of death, but also that, like, running isn't the worst thing in the world.
Okay. So it is a balance of making sure your players aren't going in with like a godlike idea of what they're going to do, put them in their place a little bit, and then help them when they realize that they can't do it all by themselves and maybe they needed to level up or maybe they needed to use a potion or a healing spell or something or work together in a more efficient way.
Yeah.
Maybe not pull all of the enemies into one area as my group tends to like to do.
If they do that, you should kind of like, all right, if they keep doing that same thing and it's working for them, well, you as a DM have the ability to make that not work for them. Make the space a little bit more compact, or potentially that the other people are ranged, so they're just shooting from far away. Give them open areas. I mean, having someone run 120 feet, because snipers are people with, I think, longbows and short bows, they have disadvantage from 60 to 120, if I'm not mistaken. Which means that you have two shots of them dashing towards you to hit it. And vice versa. If you are the bandits, you have two shots of them running at you, minus their bowmen shooting at you. Which is such a good way to just, like, show that, you aren't always going to have the upper hand from sneak. Even with saying that, you can always just drop a trap in there. But also, if you're going to drop a trap in there, give them the ability or give them a little hint in your narration throughout the kind of encounter that there is something wrong. Or like, these trees kind of have these kind of branches kind of broken off unnaturally. It's not through a saw or anything like that. Or like, the ground kind of unevenly kind of goes in and out during this road for some reason. And if you don't say, you just let them roll perception, or you can say it, just depending on how you're feeling about this encounter. Like, of course they would look at it more clearly or not. So it's up to, sometimes you can just give the kind of perception to check for traps up to your players. But yeah.
Okay.
Are you writing this down?
Maybe leave me alone, okay?
It's okay, no worries.
I'm a very nervous DM.
No worries. When's the last time you played?
Last Friday.
Last Friday. All right, cool.
Yeah, I also had a session after we recorded, and we were supposed so here was the other thing that I was kind of proud of myself for doing is that I talked to my sister and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm inviting two of my friends to come and play with us." And my mom has also surprised us with coming into town. So I was like, "All right, cool. I've got three potential extra characters that I need to now navigate." I thought to myself, what do I do? And so we went on a side quest that didn't forward the progress of our hero's journey, and two of my sister's two friends didn't show up. So it was just three of my players and my mom, who, once again, we had to have some level of buy-in. But once she figured out sort of what she was doing, it was a lot easier for her to figure it out. She basically crit failed everything she tried to do, though. I don't know how she managed it, but we had one fight where she crit failed twice in a row, and there was another player next to her, and I was like, all right, then you hit him again. Roll for damage. And so basically my mom took out our tank, or attempted to take out our tank. Yes. And she, I think, is I think she has a cleric.
Oh,
So.
what? The healer
Yep.
just knocking out the tank.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And I was like, are you sure you want to keep doing the same thing? She's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Okay, cool. So I had my first curveball thrown and then taken away very quickly. And I was prepared somewhat for extra people, but there were not extra people. But I think my dad ended up doing Thunderwave. And so we were in a empty house with a bunch of swarm of rats and large rats and, you know, rat things. And so I ended up playing them in waves of they had their first couple of swarms come in, then he did his thunder wave, and I was like, well, let's attract everybody. And so they kept getting more rat swarms and just giant rats coming at them. And I don't think anybody had any death saves this time, so we were doing much better.
gotcha.
Hmm.
A natural one is kind of hard. It can be played in multiple of ways. I'm okay with like dealing damage to other players, but I also like to say, okay, roll to hit because like having free damage on a player that didn't crit fail kind of hurts because sometimes they have high AC and that's kind of funky. I'm not saying you did the wrong thing. I'm just saying I've had complaints from other players. They're just like that sucks, but I try to see if they can hit the AC for the person next to them alongside their crit fail, which I'll give them either advantage or something because of the fail. Like, oh, he's not gonna expect you to swing on him, so he has like less dex or something like that. I don't know. So I would usually play hitting another character like with including their AC as well.
Okay. I knew that whole encounter, because what ended up happening there is that it was late, and my dad and my mom ended up taking my nephew to bed, and so they were dealing with the baby. And so I played with my sister and her boyfriend. They ended up clearing the rest of the house, just those two by themselves. And aside from my mom hitting my sister's boyfriend twice, it he didn't hit any. He wasn't hit by anything. So, but I can see that we had a bigger or a longer dungeon or something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think it was kind of funny that my mom just kept hitting the tank.
No, she did like multiple nat ones.
Yeah, in a row. It was each row. It wasn't like, oh, it was I rolled and I hit and then I rolled and I crit failed and then I rolled and I hit and I rolled and I hit and then I crit failed again. No, it was two back to back. And so the first one I was like, oh, okay, you hit him because you just like took a wrong step and stepped in a pile of rubble and then hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened again and I was like, I am not. You just hit him again.
uh, how else have you played out crit fails?
I have them hit themselves. So my sister has crit failed on her attacks and just slapped herself in the face. But that works because she's a monk and she's a low level monk. So, like, she's learning her body and figuring out how to hit things with her hands or with her quarterstaff. And so I've done that. But really, I've only had those three crit fails of any roll. So my players have rolled really well.
Yeah.
And then I have the crit fail for the charm person.
Gotcha.
So
there's also some like free apps out there as well. I've used a couple of them sometimes. It's some ridiculous stuff. Some like really like impending stuff. Like if it's a dex fail and you crit fail it, like you twist your ankle so you're at half movement speed. Just like some really bad stuff.
Oh, that's a good idea, though.
Yeah. Sometimes they just lose their footing, or not footing, their handle on the weapon, and they throw it, so they have to go retrieve it, and also they can't take attacks of opportunity because they don't have a weapon at hand. Just some random stuff.
And then if they go and retrieve their weapon, then they have the attacks of opportunity on them.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Ooh.
I've had bows snap, or like their bowstring snaps. So they'll either have to take a whole turn to just restring it, or they'll usually just drop it and get the melee weapon out. just be creative what's around you. But also like crit fails on saving throws and skill checks, just describe the hell out of them. It's so fun. Sometimes they'll say something as well. They'll contribute to what they mess up.
That's cool. I should probably let my players start maybe describing if they fail or something. I have let them describe their final blows to enemies, and they're really starting to pick up like what's going on. And
Yeah, that's
I can't even give you an example now because I'm drawing a blank. But they are very good at. You can see their eyes just light up as you've like, all right, tell me how you kill this one.
gosh, that's a very critical role of you.
Oh well, the 2 episodes I have listened to.
God, they're so long. Are you catching up to them right now, or?
Um, I no, I'm not even gonna pretend like Critical Role is one that I actively listen to. I know it's good. I'm aware of the things that Critical Role has brought to podcasting and to D&D. However, I really like Join the Party, which I found because I liked Potterless, and I really like Welcome to Night Vale, and so I spend more of my time listening to Welcome to Night Vale than anything, and I'm just in the closet of like, this is the best and most macabre thing I listen to when I work. And so,
Can you explain those two to me? Because I haven't heard of any of them.
oh my gosh. Okay, so Welcome to Night Vale is a. Let me get excited that I'm talking about something that I sort of know. And then have everyone yell at me because I describe it incorrectly.
Well, that
Um,
means we have viewers, and that's a positive.
that's true. That's assuming anybody listens. So, well, Welcome to Night Vale is a like fictional radio show about this small desert town of Night Vale. It's filled with like conspiracy theories and spooky things, and I really like it. Like it's very creepy, very paradoxical, very like, conspiracy theory. There are like, the mayor's helicopters are looming over the town, and we don't talk about them, but we know them. Or like, don't go to the dog park because there are black figures sitting in the dog park, and you don't look at the dog park. And we don't talk about the dog park. It's very well done. If you need a fictional watch or listen, I guess you don't watch it.
And what's joining the
Maybe I
party?
Join the Party. On the other hand, is it's a D&D podcast. It's on its second season now. They are currently running a like superhero campaign, and it started off with basic understanding of how to play D&D. So their first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 episodes are just the basic understanding of these characters and how they're playing D&D and D and how everything works. And they write extremely well-rounded characters, and the DM, his name is Eric, and I can't remember last names because I'm terrible at last names, is just such a good storyteller that I am excited to hear about it, but I'm sad that I don't think I'm ever going to be that good. But it's so good, and it also has that side of intersectionality of players who are non-binary or characters who are non-binary, and we just understand that there are differences in people, and so there are differences in the characters of D&D. So it starts to fill in the gaps that I think just like Wizards of the Coast did not address or still have not addressed, and I really like it.
Yeah. What's it called? They actually are kind of fixing up some stuff going on. Coming up, they're changing up Curse of Strahd, the campaign I'm running, because
Mhm.
has a very kind of bad depiction of the Visanti, which are essentially Roma, aka gypsies, which is kind of the slur of it. Because they're like, most of them are all evil, and they have this special power called Evil Eye, which they can put curses on you.
That's
Yeah,
not problematic at all.
I know. So, yeah. So they're changing that, and then they're changing this about this disabled individual that has a prosthetic, and apparently she's ashamed of it. And I'm like, I don't. I mean, that one is up to interpretation entirely. I mean, most of the characters that are in modules are up into interpretation. You can change who they are and how they play to a viewpoint that you can understand. Because if you're trying to play a character like this evil bad guy that makes no sense whatsoever, and you just can't have that push, you can't play their storyline very well. So I make her just this kind of like shadow rogue person because she almost died early, before the players got into the campaign. Shoot, what were we talking about?
We were talking about, I guess, making instances harder for our players, but we got into
Podcast.
the other things that are happening within the Dungeons and Dragons world.
Yeah, things that we've understood. Yeah, I'm only on like episode like 13 of Critical Role in the first campaign, and I just started. I'm on the second episode of Adventure Zone, so like I'm only been watching the mainstream stuff, unfortunately. My roommate used to watch Daddies and Dungeons, or Dungeons and Daddies.
I love Dungeons and Daddies as well. It's a little problematic every once in a while that it makes my heart go, oof, really? We're about to, okay. But I also do like Dungeons and Daddies. So I think that like hipster part of my soul that like just doesn't like mainstream things up front, I think that really still plays a part in my choices of listening. That I tend to try to travel on the path less worn in. That was not the way that goes, and I'm sorry for anybody who loves Frost. I tend to travel on those. Like I don't know. Maybe I am just a just cool kid at heart forever.
Whoa.
But I want to experience other things.
That's understandable. You want to like. Yes, you know that this is good, but what is something that nobody knows is good? Like, you want to be able to find that and spread that, because, like, the mainstream thing is easy to spread, but what if you could find a hidden gem to just, like, look, you know that's good, but, like, have you ever listened to this? Like, something to spread the enjoyment. Because it's not that hard to get someone into something that's been heard about, but some secret thing that only a few people know about, ugh, so good. I'm gonna tell you.
Yep. I'm here to find the broken and the wounded and the small and bring them to light and have that excited feeling about getting people into things that I also like. Is that cultish to say? Is that cultish?
I don't know. Is D&D a cult? I mean, people think that it's of the occult, so maybe. Go ahead.
That also would probably play a bigger factor in the fact that we live in the Bible Belt, and that's a big thing, especially, everyone has a friend who wasn't allowed to listen to Harry or watch Harry Potter or read it.
Yep. It's like one every group, for sure.
Yep. I know. I can see her in my face of, like, the one person who freaked out that we were watching Harry Potter on my, like, middle school birthday party. And here we are now. I have 2 Harry Potter tattoos, so I guess
You're a Ravenclaw, right?
Full Ravenclaw, absolutely.
Oh God, I'm sorry. Okay. You went a little hard there, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry to touch that.
I feel like you forget that absolutely full Harry Potter. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I have a half bath underneath a set of stairs that I haven't considered completely decking out in Harry Potter stuff. I've never done that. Why would I have a small closet-sized room and decorate it in Harry Potter?
Never.
I would never. What house are you in?
I think I don't know. It's been a while. I think I've went from like Gryffindor to like Slytherin to Ravenclaw. I don't know. It's just kind of like changing the type of person I am and like the outlook in life. Like, are you the type to get them before they get you, or do you just like wait until make them watch them make the first move? I mean, it also kind of changes with like the type of characters I play as well, because like rogues don't really have anything to say. They get the shiny thing and they get out. And some people play rogues really differently, where me and my friends let the rogue take care of the party treasury, and he's like, and after our game ended, like years later, he's like, yeah, I don't understand why you guys did that. I was skimming off the top every time we got gold. And we're just like, holy shit, what? He was playing his character right.
Absolutely. Skimming it every time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a lot. I don't know. Did I answer your question about CR?
I think there's a lot of different factors that go into playing. So yes, I think there are lots of things that you can do, and maybe that overwhelming choice is what stops me from being like, oh, okay, so like this is okay. I don't know why I, as a DM, am trying to play being a DM like the right way. Because I know as the player, I'm like, no, uh, no rules. Everything is free. Let me do whatever I want within the parameters and let my DM like make that decision. But now that I am the one in charge, I'm like, oh, can we do that? And I like consult my notes, right? I think about it. I'm like, no, look, you're in charge now. Like, I'm the adult. I can do this. I can be the DM. So I think if anybody else is struggling on how to play the DM right, what I hear most often talking to you and talking to other people are just do whatever fits the story and whatever works for your party, and it's a trust exercise between you and your group of players, and everything is going to be okay because you have some sort of communication that isn't spoiling the game, that isn't, we're all trying to work through the same goal of having a good time. And what does that good time look like for what your players want? And then how do you, as a DM, marry all of their wants and needs into a cohesive story?
I think so far I haven't done it very well, like their whole backstory intertwining it, because some people just like at the very beginning, no one really cared about their backstory. They cared about the story that the DM played. That's how I was played at first. So I didn't really know anything better. And now that later in life, more people want to be more kind of included and intertwined into the story, which is fine. Like you dropping a name from their backstory into the actual story that's going on right now is such a like a light inside their eyes. Like, because you'll probably like play the first couple sessions just playing Fandolin. I don't. Is that what it's called?
Sandalin is that's one I started off, but I am playing Clam Island. I can find the because I didn't want to use anything that my players could find
Gotcha.
because I have the one like I said last time that likes to read ahead, which is fine.
Yeah.
Um, but I did not play Sandalin.
I heard the name at the first episode of the Adventure Zone, so that's why I brought it back up. But you won't see their backstory at all throughout this whole thing. Like no one's gonna in Curse of Strahd's gonna be like a relative or anything. I
Yeah.
mean, the people that I got their backstories just this session after months of playing with them, I only did that now because I know that they're in it and they're in depth and they want part of their character to be, you know, influenced through this world. And I changing up these PC characters and everything, and I'm finally gonna start name dropping things soon once they get back to the
Oh.
town, and that'll it has to make sense though in some way or fashion, especially in Curse of Strahd, which is like its own little plane. But yeah, I understand that the DM's position throughout this whole thing is to have tell a story with your friends, okay? That's the basis of everything. Make it as good as it needs to be. If they want combat and they just want a level, give it to them. But if they want some RP and some story driven ideas and like them as as a player character growing, give them to that too. It just depends on who you're playing with. Like I have a whole questionnaire before when I did this Curse of Strahd game, like what they needed, what they want, and what do you expect from me, and do you have any questions, all that stuff. Like I have a first like explain to me who you are questionnaire, and then once they send me that, I send them an extra questionnaire about like what to expect or have any questions kind of thing. Like I tried my best to vent any flakes as best as I can by giving them things to do.
Just weed out the weak.
Yeah, essentially, like I had uh, like first handful of sessions, one person dropped out. Second handful of sessions, we lost Victor, one of our main guys. Then I just rolled in some more players. Three out of or two out of three, I think 3 out of 4 characters that I petitioned for the position dropped. So, and I didn't overshot that as well. So when I finally got it down to that baseline, I was good again. So it's hard to want to do storyline backstories because if you start intertwining that and somebody leaves, it sucks because you put in the work and effort and it's just gone.
It's like a breakup.
Yeah, no, you ain't. I mean, it's not as bad, but it feels bad. Yeah.
That's okay. You can be upset. I think that's part of the magic that is D&D, that you do get involved in these stories and you do connect with the players, and when somebody leaves, I'm sure it's hard to not take it personal.
Yeah.
I mean, my players are my parts of my family who are not going anywhere, so
You got them.
as
You
far
got
as
them
I'm
trapped.
aware, yeah, they're stuck. So, I can start. And I have parts of their stories. So they did have like a session 0 where they explained their characters and I had some ideas. I just think you're right that we need to build the group dynamic, figure out that part, and then it can be more emotional later, maybe.
I mean, if you look at most like dramas, you just like, oh, this guy's the bad boy, and this guy's the guy who does good, and this guy's the thief, and all that stuff. Like, you get these baseline kind of character aesthetics like established before you get deeper into their backstory, and it's like every character isn't going to get their backstory revealed. You'll have that single arc of one person specifically, and then you can go on to the next one. And throwing monsters in there is just flavor. Okay. Personally, I'm trying to find something to do at level 10 because one of my players is like, what do we do after we're done? Like we've hung out for months, and part of me just doesn't want this to end, and I'm like, to be honest, same, bro, I got feelings, bro.
I did see something interesting in my journey into the DM guide that one of their suggestions, like once you get done with your characters, you could keep the changes that you have done to the, Forgotten Realm, and then have the next set of players be like ancestors of your heroic characters, or it could be some time has passed and your changes, you can still honor your former characters, but you now have these new characters who have to deal with whatever they did in the past. So that was a neat idea to carry on the story, but not have to stay in those same shoes.
Yeah. I don't think I've gotten a character past level 12, I want to say. Personally.
We'll see. That's what you do after level 10. You go to 11 and then you go to 12.
It's
I
so
don't think you
simple now.
appreciated that.
Somebody will. Me listening to this part as I can physically feel myself face palming again while I listen to it.
I hope so. As you edit it and then as you listen to it again.
Just to make sure everything sounds right.
Yep.
I think I've already explained this, so I didn't have to go into the story I had. But essentially, like, having something that's too difficult and your players not knowing that to be in the realm of what's going on in the world, I think that's important. To have that understanding that character death might happen soon. If you give them that prompt, I think I personally I think it's better, but also gives them they're more on edge instead of being carefree and dumb, which I think it's fine to balance that serious between carefree. But I think you should also, as a DM, just to give them a heads up before, like, this person straight up dead. Like, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I have to. I will have to. It's gonna come up soon, but.
Well, you already warned your characters that they needed to make other character sheets, but they needed to have a backup.
They do.
So.
This as soon as the main big bad evil guy comes in, Strahd, someone's already died, but that was because he left, and he's been played so many times, so I had to make his death thematic. I think now if Strahd gets involved, it's gonna be the stakes will grow ever higher.
The stakes?
Eh? Oh, God.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it, and you got me, and got whatever. Uh, gosh.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Shut up. Uh, gosh. Okay, that's all I have for CR stuff. I figured out. I mean, you just throw them some bad guys. If they can handle it, they can. Throw them some harder bad guys and keep going from there. They're gonna get smarter and they're gonna figure out how to play. So there's no problem with giving them a very difficult thing. I think there's usually like in a lot of modules there's like a cop out. Not a, I wouldn't say cop out. A safety net. How about that?
That's fair.
So in one of the Pathfinder modules, Kingmaker, the last bad guy has a potential like turncoat in his ranks because he's just been like a fallen paladin that's been like kind of considering his life's deeds, and if the players kind of like looking like they're gonna win or they're in trouble and they just need one last push, that guy can turn on his team potentially. In Curse of Strahd, personally, I think the I forget what it's called. It's like the Cult of the Feathers or something like that. Anyways, there's the Were Ravens that are against Strahd, and there's ravens all over the place. Like I hint at it every now and then that there's a raven and he seems to be following you, and as soon as you like look at him, he kind of paws off and goes away. But roll again. Oh, you see him again. Yeah, he's kind of keeping far away and still following. So like there's always someone watching him, if either being the main bad guy or an ally. So yeah, give them a failsafe.
A were-raven, though. Is that a raven that turns into a wolf, or is it that turns into a human, or a human that turns into a raven?
Human that turns into a raven. There's like three forms. There's human, there's raven, and then there's were-raven. So like they have all three of those components. It's pretty cool. And to contract lycanthropy is a 12 con save.
I had my druid in the work group that I have accidentally develop that, not realizing that we were far too small of a level to take on a werewolf, and then magically I found a cure.
It's curable. It just takes some time.
Yeah, this was just like a DM, my bad. You found it, you're cured.
Heard. Do you want to talk about accountability goals and all that stuff?
Oof.
We
can't.
You dread?
Well, that means then you have to talk about like actually setting goals and what it looks like. And I know that this week I've been not motivated at all, despite the fact that in the freshman seminar class that I'm teaching this semester, I have been open already and honest about my goals for this semester. And I said I was going to run on Tuesday and Thursday, and it's now Wednesday, and I did not run. So I'm already setting myself up for failure.
But you're fine. Don't think that way. It's hard too.
Right. So that's where the slight stress comes from. But I think setting up goals and having that level of accountability is important for you to have. And I think, finding people who are supportive of that is one more, level to help you in the long run.
I know, I understand that. It's easier to do things as a group than in my opinion, to do it by myself. Like, it was easier for me to go to the gym when it was like my friend Adriana, just like, hey, do you want to go now? Hey, do you want to go now? Like, consistently. So,
yeah.
And also I enjoyed her company. She's a hoot and holler. And now I can't go out much, and two, I don't want to go out much. But here's my goals that I'm going to state right now. And anyone that's listening, if you all want to be like kind of part of like a community kind of accountability every week, I'm down with that. I'll get a Google Docs going. We'll figure this out together, kind of thing. But my goal
on Twitter.
Yeah, my Twitter, my 8 people on Twitter, which is 2 of them are us, so 6 people on Twitter.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's gone up by 1 since our last video, which is, something.
Yeah.
And I also didn't I've only previewed it through Twitter, which I barely use. I should probably use Facebook or Instagram sooner or later. Anyways, my goal is to finish reading the Curse of Strahd book, the whole thing. I've skimmed most of it. I've skimmed enough to get them to level 5. Or read enough to get to level 5. I just need there's some story background stuff that I want to put into play, aka the wolves, into a deeper context, so I have to finish that. I'll probably read the chapter about the wolves before my game in 3 hours. 2 hours. And then, what else do I need to do? I'm going to be gone. I'll be in Lubbock this weekend. So I think what I'm planning to do with that time is drawing up a map, like if they do this, what's going on. And also to write up backstory from the time they got there to the time that it currently is, if I have enough time. I'm going to give myself 5 entries. I need to do 5 more than what I have right now, which is 1.5. So those are my 2 goals. Read the book and flesh out background, and then find 1 commission artist to draw a kobold. I'll give 3 is fine for starting out.
When will you have these completed by? Because the deadline is also another important part of goal setting.
Tuesday.
When we next record. So, and for the community though, it'll be the next Sunday, because that's when it'll be released, and then you'll have time to do your goal till next Sunday, when the next video comes out. And then I'll be updating.
That's a week, yes.
Yes, and I'll update this. I'll have to get this going before Sunday. We'll do. I don't know what we'll do yet. I'm thinking of like leveling up and all that stuff. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Or celebrate everybody's win for the week.
Yeah, we'll do some shout outs.
Yeah.
So
if you have a goal that you have accomplished this week, send us via Twitter. That's really the only way right now. Send us via Twitter your accomplishment. We'll give you a shout out. We'll applaud. We'll cheer. It'll make us feel better, like we accomplished something. We will all ride that wave of victory together.
Yeah, sounds good. And we'll update you on our owns and potentially our fails. But also just to talk about how to get over that too, because I think that's also an important part. I mean, us failing kind of tends to happen as humans. So I think that how to get past it and not be too discouraged is, well, for us, it's hard too. We're not invincible. And we have failed before, and it gets us down too, but let's try to like work together and like kind of build each other up. Does that sound good?
While you were talking, yes.
Sorry.
While you were talking, I was thinking about mine and what I want to do. I really want to finish this 3 times a week running nonsense. So I'll run tomorrow. I think I'm paddleboarding on Friday, which sounds like such a bougie thing to do.
I think that's awesome. I had to paddleboard a person in a donut that was like 300 pounds, like almost a quarter mile. It sucked.
Let me see. I have it written down what I'm doing.
No worries. I can edit this all.
So I will be paddleboarding on Friday, and then I have a Zumba on Saturday, and then maybe I'll go for a run. So I'll run tomorrow, and then Saturday and Sunday.
All right. And on Sunday you'll be listening to our podcast.
Absolutely, while I run. And I'm going to, by Sunday, have my alarm pushed back to 6:30. Because right now I wake up at 7:15.
Is that bad?
No, but since we live in Texas, I would like to do the runs in the morning, because at this point, if I run at night, I don't really want to go out until 8 o'clock, and once I'm using air quotes here, cools down.
Yeah.
I would rather do that in the morning when I know it's not as hot. So 6 6:30. Is that what I said?
I need to
6:30.
write down my goals again before I forget. Anyways, yeah, Kobold Commission, read COS, and then write backstory. And next week I'll have like personal goals for studying and stuff, but
Well,
not.
these are still personal goals.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not towards stuff that I need to do. These are want to do. Well, I still need to do this. Anyways, whatever. All right. I'm good. Do you have anything else?
I think that covers everything that was on our list for today.
Yeah, I'll get a cooler list next time.
I think it was a good list.
I felt a little rambly near the end.
Well, you know, you can always take those parts out and then throw them into the outtakes at the very end.
Boo.
Maybe that's her thing.
All right. So yeah, if you are following us on Spotify or Pocket Cast or Anchor, go send us a follow on our Twitter. It's the only kind of media we have currently yet. Enter D and Degrees Pod, and I'll spell that out: DNDEGREES Pod. But yeah, go follow us. And if you want to be part of this community kind of accountability thing, which is, so we can be socially responsible for each other, as well as, it's proven to be helpful to have some sort of accountability to meet your goals. So yeah, go ahead and send us a tweet, and hopefully we'll have some more social by our next episode.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, my name's Adrian.
My name is Alex.
Go have some fun.